This isn't about being tired. This is about being done. Done with a version of life that was never yours to live. There comes a point, a silent, screaming moment, where exhaustion hits you not in your body, but in your soul. You feel it, don't you? That deep, bone-weary fatigue that sleep can't fix. It's the weight of explaining your heart to people who only ever wanted to judge it. It's the hollow ache from fighting battles that only ever took from you. It's the crushing burden of carrying emotional baggage that was never, ever yours to hold. Let that sink in. In that still, quiet moment when the noise of the world is a deafening roar and the weight of it all is pressing you into the ground, something primal inside you shifts. It's not a breakdown. It's a breakthrough. A realization so profound it changes everything. Not everything deserves your reaction. Think about that. You don't have to meet every insult with a comeback. You don't have to answer every betrayal with your anger. You don't have to offer an explanation for your life to every person who holds a judgment. This is where you begin to train your mind to stand in the storm and remain at peace. Not because you've gone numb or cold, but because you have discovered a freedom so profound it terrifies those who once held your chains. Freedom. Freedom from the opinions of people who have never walked a single step in your shoes. Freedom from the expectations that were always a cage, never a compass. This is where you learn that real strength isn't loud. It isn't aggressive. It's quiet, composed, unshaken. True power isn't shown in your roar. It's proven in your ability to remain powerfully still when everything and everyone around you is spinning out of control. That's not just growth. That's a resurrection. You must protect your peace like it is the most sacred thing you own, because it is. You must fight for it. Not with your fists, but with your restraint. Not with your anger, but with your wisdom. Not with your pain, but with your profound, unbreakable self-control. The most powerful person in the room is never the one shouting. It's the one who can walk through absolute chaos and not lose their balance. So many people live their entire lives in constant, frantic reaction. Reacting to disrespect, reacting to opinions, reacting to silence, reacting to anything that dares to poke at their fragile pride. But you are different now. At some point, if you are truly ready to evolve, you have to stop reacting and you must start mastering. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean locking them away. It means feeling them fully, the rage, the hurt, the disappointment, and then, with the strength of a warrior, choosing how you express them. It means selecting calm when chaos is begging for your attention. It means choosing silence when your ego is screaming for a war. Think of this discipline like taming a wild beast within you. Initially, it fights you. It resists. It lashes out, desperate for control. But with patience, with unwavering strength, that very wildness becomes your greatest power. A power that is focused, controlled, and utterly unstoppable. Every single moment you are triggered is not a sign of your weakness. It is an opening, a divine invitation to grow stronger. In that instant, suspended between the provocation and your response, you have a choice. A choice to act from a place of old, familiar pain or from a place of hard-won, crystalline wisdom. Your response in that single moment defines your entire power. People who try to provoke you are vampires for your reaction. It's what fuels them. It's what gives them life. But when you choose silence, when you pause, when you become an unshakable monument of stillness, you take away their very source of power. You win the war without ever lifting a finger. Control isn't loud. It's composed, centered, steady. This is what emotional discipline is. This is what separates those who drift through life from those who move with unshakable purpose. Society celebrates the quick comeback, the fast reaction, the appearance of strength. But real strength, the kind that builds empires of the soul, lives in patience. It lives in the profound knowledge of when to speak and when to let your silence speak for you. It's the ability to hold back, to wait. To stay rooted so deeply within yourself that even when storms rage around you, you are the one spot of perfect calm. It's like standing in the middle of a hurricane and remaining dry. Not because the storm isn't real, but because you've prepared for it. You've endured worse. You've already survived hell, so a little rain means nothing. When someone tries to provoke you, the impulse to lash out can feel like a fire in your veins. It may even feel satisfying for a single, fleeting moment. But what feels good in the moment often leaves a void in your spirit. True growth is when you can face that same fire and not get burned. When you can acknowledge the heat, but choose not to let it consume you. Emotional discipline isn't about being unaffected. It's about being intentional. It's knowing, with absolute clarity, when to engage, when to walk away, and when to simply observe from a place of untouchable peace. Not everything deserves your energy. Some things, some people, are so far beneath where you are now that they don't even register on your soul. As you rise, the noise fades. Life, and the people in it, will continue to test you. They'll send insults masked as jokes. They'll betray you with smiles on their faces. They'll disappoint you with expectations you never, ever agreed to. But how you respond, that is the truest reflection of who you're becoming. This discipline of the heart isn't forged in comfort. It's formed in pressure, in heat, in conflict. It's easy to stay centered when everything is going right. The real test, the test that forges warriors, comes when everything is going wrong. Can you stay grounded when your name is being dragged through the mud? Can you keep your peace when the whole world is watching, expecting you to crack? They want a show. They are desperate for your reaction. But when you choose not to give it to them, when you remain calm, centered, and rise above the fray, you leave them confused, powerless, and staring at a strength they cannot comprehend. You reclaim your power in the very silence you offer them. And this is just the beginning, because what comes next will make you untouchable. That's the kind of control no one else can touch. It lets you walk through disrespect, not because you're blind to it, but because you've grown beyond the need to react. Your peace becomes more valuable than your pride. Think about that. Is your momentary pride worth a day of your peace, a week? It's like being offered a shiny piece of glass when you're holding a diamond. You just smile and keep the diamond. That's how warriors are truly built. Not in the noise of the battle, but in the silent understanding that some battles are only won by refusing to fight them. As you build this emotional discipline, your vision clears. It's like a fog lifting from your life. You start to see the truth behind people's words. You catch the manipulation that comes dressed as care, the subtle put-downs disguised as jokes. You see the jealousy hiding inside empty compliments. And instead of confronting it all, you observe. You process. You step back in a silence that speaks volumes of self-respect. You finally understand. You are no longer responsible for fixing what people refuse to acknowledge, or for proving your value to those who are determined not to see it. Ask yourself, whose validation have I been chasing that was never worth the energy? Validation from the wrong people is a thirst you can never quench. Your calm, that deep, inner stillness, becomes your armor. Your silence becomes your most powerful message. Your discipline, that daily choice, becomes your undeniable strength. This kind of mastery doesn't make you flawless. It makes you resilient. It means you faced your pain head-on. You felt the full weight of it. You've cried the silent, private tears, and still, you found your balance. Not because life got easier, but because you became stronger. Stronger than the noise. Stronger than the past. Stronger than that desperate, aching need to be constantly understood by everyone. You know it's true, right? That exhaustion from trying to make them see you. And with that strength comes a crystal clarity. The more you stay anchored in it, the more you become a magnet for things that align with your peace. The noise, it just fades. The nonsense, it disappears. All that's left is a fierce, focused light. Emotional discipline isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about learning how to express those feelings in ways that build you up, instead of breaking you down. It's a daily commitment to your own growth. Each morning, you decide, I won't let the outside world dictate my inner weather. It's not a one-time choice. It's a mindset, a way of being. And yes, you'll have moments where emotion flares, where your old pride wants to jump back into the driver's seat. But that's okay. Growth isn't perfection. It's awareness. Think about it. Every single time you choose composure over chaos, you are doing a rep for your soul. You strengthen your core. You become less shaken. You stop being a leaf tossed in every emotional storm and start being the deeply rooted tree. That's how real transformation begins. Because the person who has command over their emotions has command over their life. They enter every room not with arrogance, but with a calm confidence that changes the atmosphere. They face challenges not with panic, but with clarity. They love deeply without ever losing themselves in the process. That's the goal, to remain unbothered. Not by closing your heart, but by elevating your perspective so high that the small things simply look small. Most people spend their entire lives pouring their energy into things that don't deserve it. They give away their focus to temporary problems that will be forgotten in a week, to the opinions of people who haven't earned a single minute of their time. But something shifts the moment you start choosing where your energy goes. You realize it's not unlimited. It's your most valuable currency, your spiritual cash. Spend it wisely. Would you give away all your money to a stranger on the street who demanded it? Of course not. So why are you giving away your peace, your focus, your precious strength to people and situations that haven't earned it? It's time to protect your energy the same way you protect your biggest dreams. You can't grow. You can't heal. You can't truly win if your energy is constantly being siphoned away. Drained by chaos you didn't create. Drained by arguments you don't need to have. Drained by people who thrive on drama, who feed on your light. This is where awareness becomes your greatest weapon. You have to start asking yourself, with brutal honesty, is this worth my energy? Is this helping me evolve? Or is it just dragging me back into a cycle I've already outgrown? Your future is literally shaped by how you answer that question. There's a cosmic difference between reacting and responding. Feel the difference. A reaction is immediate, emotional, and reckless. It's a grenade you toss without looking. A response is thoughtful, intentional, and rooted in self-control. It's a precise, surgical strike. If someone disrespects you and you snap back without thinking, you've handed over your energy on their terms. You've let their chaos set up shop in your mind. But when you pause, When you breathe in that sacred space between the trigger and your action, and you choose peace over pettiness, you regain your power. Power over your emotions. Power over your space. Power over your very life. Understanding what deserves your energy also means recognizing what doesn't. Not every comment requires a reply. Not every situation needs your involvement. Some things are best left unaddressed. Some people are best kept at a distance. Not everything that demands your attention deserves it. People will try to pull you into their storms. Their drama, their dysfunction. They'll hand you their baggage and act surprised when you feel the weight. But it is your sacred responsibility to stay centered. That isn't selfish. That is wisdom. If something costs you your peace, it's already too expensive. If it drains you more than it develops you, it's not a worthwhile investment. It's a loss. And you've got to stop treating losses like they're obligations. Think about how often you feel tired. Not physically, but emotionally. That's soul-deep weariness. It's rarely just the workload or the daily hustle. It's the subtle, constant drain of misdirected energy. That one conversation that played on a loop in your mind all day. That one person you keep forgiving, even though they keep hurting you. That one painful thought you revisit, like rewatching a tragedy, even though it brings you nothing but pain. This is why managing your energy is more important than managing your time. You can have a wide open, empty schedule and still feel utterly exhausted if your energy is being poured into the wrong things, the wrong people, the wrong memories. You reclaim your strength by recognizing what's been stealing it. It's an audit of your soul. Start observing how you feel after certain interactions. Do you walk away feeling lighter or heavier? Inspired or confused? Calm or anxious? Your body and spirit are always sending you signals. You just have to become quiet enough to listen. The right people will respect your energy. The right environments will nurture it. That's why you have to become fiercely selective. Not because you think you're better than anyone, but because you finally learned to value yourself. Your energy isn't infinite, it's sacred, and you don't owe explanations for protecting it. You don't have to justify why you're distancing yourself, why you're not replying, why you no longer show up where your peace can't exist. But this is only the first layer, because what happens when you master this silence? What happens when it becomes your superpower? And this is where you learn that silence can be more powerful than 1,000 words. Stillness can be louder than any reaction. Think of it like this: some people are emotional vampires. They feed off your reaction, your anger, your hurt, your frustration. It's their fuel. Some conflicts continue for years, not because they're important, but simply because you keep showing up to the battlefield. But once you learn to pull your energy back, to disengage, to stop investing in what is already spiritually dead, everything changes. You grow, you become stronger. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring for yourself first. You know the difference, don't you? That shift from seeking external validation to embodying internal validation. It's not about being cold. It's about being conscious. You stop trying to fix people who aren't even willing to look at their own wounds. You stop explaining your value to those who can't even see their own reflection in the mirror. You stop trying to scream your truth into the ears of people who are committed to misunderstanding you. That is how you protect your power. Not by shutting down your heart, but by becoming a master architect of where your emotional energy is allowed to flow. And once that shift happens, your life starts to align in ways it never could before. It's like the universe finally sees you're serious and says, "Okay, Now we can build. Every one of us has a limited capacity mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't give endlessly to others and still expect to feel whole. Ask yourself, where have I been pouring from an empty cup? Unless you treat your energy like the precious, finite asset it is, you will run on empty until you break down. Choosing what deserves your energy means consciously select your entire life. Some people won't like it. They'll label you selfish, distant, arrogant. Let them. When you stop being accessible to chaos, the ones who depended on draining your light will try to guilt you for reclaiming it. They'll say you've changed. Your only job is to stay rooted. Protecting your energy isn't about thinking you're better than anyone. It's about finally deciding to be better for yourself. You've already done it the other way. You've overextended yourself until you snapped. You've given endless chances to those who saw your kindness as a weakness. You've tolerated what your soul was begging you to walk away from. Now, it's time for boundaries. Not walls of bitterness, but boundaries built from the solid foundation of self-love. Boundaries that quietly, powerfully say, I'm no longer giving pieces of myself to people who keep breaking them. That's not cruelty. That is clarity. We get so used to leaking energy that we don't even notice the toll it takes. We normalize stress. We accept anxiety as a part of life. We wear burnout like a badge of honor. But the truth is, so much of that fatigue doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from giving too much of yourself to the wrong people, the wrong problems, the wrong priorities. Knowing what deserves your energy means setting clear, non-negotiable standards. Not everything that feels urgent is actually important. Not every message requires a reply. Not every invitation deserves a yes. You must begin measuring everything by one simple, devastatingly powerful question. Does this support my growth? If it doesn't, it drains you. If it doesn't align with the future you're building, it's holding you back. You are not here to babysit other people's dysfunction. You are here to heal, to build, to thrive. And you can't do that while constantly being pulled into storms that aren't yours. Reclaim your space. Reclaim your peace. Reclaim your right to walk away without guilt from anything that dims your light. You'll know you're rising when peace starts to feel better than attention. When a quiet Saturday night alone feels richer than a room full of shallow conversations. When doing less feels more powerful than constantly proving yourself. Knowing what deserves your energy is a daily decision to tune into your higher self. It's choosing presence over performance, growth over gossip, clarity over noise. It's realizing you don't have to carry what doesn't belong to you. You don't have to chase closure where there is only confusion. You don't have to explain your value to anyone committed to misunderstanding it. And that is where real power begins to expand. When you realize your time, your focus, and your very presence are all investments, you stop giving them away cheaply. You stop pouring yourself into emptiness and start feeding what actually feeds you. The right people, the right goals, the right spaces. That's where your energy belongs. That's where you align. That's how you move forward without burning out. Not loud, not frantic, but intentional, quiet, steady. Unapologetically clear. There is a power in silence that words can never touch. In a world that constantly demands your attention, your response, your energy, your silence becomes your fortress. Not avoidance, not weakness, strength. Silence is a boundary. It's a declaration that says, I won't lower my frequency to match your dysfunction. There's a quiet maturity in choosing not to respond to every insult, not to explain yourself to every doubter, not to show up to every argument you're invited to. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means protection. It means choosing your peace over a performance, your stillness over their noise. Some may misread your silence. They'll call you cold or indifferent. What they want to see is the inner power it takes to stay grounded when every part of your ego is begging to react. They won't see the healing happening behind the stillness. Because when you stop speaking, you start listening. Listening to yourself, to your instincts, to what actually, truly matters. Silence isn't empty. It's full. Full of truth. Full of clarity. Full of the lessons you were too busy talking to hear. When used with intention, it becomes louder than any response. You don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to explain your worth. Your silence says everything. It says, this no longer deserves my energy. I've moved on. Silence holds a wisdom that observes instead of reacts, that reflects instead of explodes. You learn more about a person by watching their patterns for 5 minutes than by listening to their promises for 5 years. In silence, you see people with crystal clarity. You see who respects your boundaries and who constantly tests them. You notice the noise for what it really is: distraction, ego, fear. And you no longer feel the pull to respond. That feeling, that liberation, is everything. Silence isn't about hiding your voice. It's about mastering it. It's knowing that your peace is priceless, and not every moment deserves the honor of your presence. Sometimes, silence is how you guard your peace from those who never learned how to respect it. It is how you reclaim your power from situations that no longer deserve a single second of your life. And the ones who thrive on conflict, they won't understand. They'll push harder. They'll raise their voice. They'll try every trick to provoke a reaction. That's exactly when your silence becomes your shield. Not because you're afraid, but because you're focused. Because you've come to understand a fundamental truth: not everything is worth your attention. You're not here to show up for every conflict that calls your name. You are here to grow. And growth, real, substantial growth, often happens quietly. In the moments when you pause, take a deep breath and let your silence speak on your behalf. There's a unique strength in not needing to be right, not needing to be heard, not needing to win every argument. That's where real emotional maturity lies. Silence becomes the sound of restraint. It's the strength to walk away from fights that feed nothing but your pride. Some people are addicted to noise because they're terrified of what the silence might reveal about them. But you're learning to see silence differently. It's where your healing begins. It's where clarity lives. It's where you finally catch your breath and gather your strength. So when the world gets loud, when people bring their drama, their negativity, their confusion, don't meet it. Don't mirror it. Just breathe. That pause is your power. That stillness is your strategy. Because not every situation deserves your voice. Some things should end without a word, not out of coldness, but out of profound wisdom. Your silence says, I value my peace too much to waste it here. As you evolve, you become more careful, more intentional with your words. You don't speak just to fill the silence. You speak to bring meaning. And when words won't serve you, you hold them. You let your discipline speak for you. Choosing not to react doesn't mean you didn't notice. It means you evaluated the moment and decided your peace mattered more. Silence isn't empty. It's full of presence, full of intention. It's what happens when your emotions want to rise like a wave, but you choose to be the deep, still ocean beneath them. That is mastery. That is strength. Sometimes, silence is the clearest form of communication. It tells the world you're done explaining. It lets people wonder why you've pulled back. It lets their own assumptions reveal who they are, without you lifting a finger. Because silence doesn't beg for understanding. It stands in its truth. It says, I've said all I needed to say. Or maybe, you were never really listening anyway. It's not always easy to stay quiet, especially when your heart is full and your mind is racing. But in that moment, when the urge to react is at its loudest, your silence becomes the boldest move you can make. You are not stepping back because you're weak. You're rising above because you've grown. You're not seeking their validation. You're reclaiming your focus. In silence, you reconnect with who you really are, away from the noise of other people's opinions. You remember that not every action needs your reaction. Some things are too small for your energy. Some people no longer belong in your space. So you stop arguing. You stop explaining. You walk away with a calm smile and a quiet exit. That silence echoes louder than any response ever could. You'll know you're healing when silence doesn't feel like a punishment, but a form of protection. When being misunderstood doesn't shake you. When being ignored doesn't wound you. That's the shift. That's when you realize your worth was never, ever tied to how much noise you made. Silence becomes a confident choice. You stop chasing conversations. You stop begging to be heard. You stop forcing understanding. You simply allow people to reveal who they are. While you stay anchored, unshakable, in your peace. Because the truth is, if someone truly values you, they'll hear you even when you're quiet. If they don't, no amount of talking will ever change that. Silence is the filter your life has been waiting for. It reveals who listens and who simply fades away. It reminds you that you don't need to exhaust yourself proving, defending, or explaining. You just need to stand still and let silence do the sacred work of sorting. It's not about apathy. It's about awareness. It's knowing what drains you. It's recognizing that you can't grow in chaos. You don't owe your energy, your voice, or your time to everyone. Silence becomes the message they never made space to hear. People will test you. They'll poke at your peace to see if you'll break. They'll stir chaos just to see if you'll react. But when you stay quiet, when you remain still, when you refuse to feed the fire, they lose. They lose because they expect noise. They expect the old game. But your silence ends it. Your silence breaks the pattern. And in that stillness, you rise. You've learned that not every storm needs your sail. Not every fire needs your effort. Some things extinguish faster when you simply stop giving them your oxygen. Silence is how you win battles that were never worth your time. It's how you protect your mind, preserve your peace, and choose inner wealth over outside approval. It doesn't mean you're not hurting or that you don't feel. It means you're healing quietly. You're building, growing, and rising without needing an audience. Because real transformation doesn't need noise. It needs focus. While others talk, you move. While they seek attention, you seek purpose. And eventually, you realize the loudest in the room are often the most unsettled. But you're learning that silence is strength. It's the language of confidence, of clarity, of a peace that doesn't need to prove a single thing. When you stop explaining yourself to those unwilling to understand, you protect your dignity. When you stop arguing with people who only listen to reply, you protect your time. Silence becomes your boundary. What no longer aligns fades on its own. And what's meant for you comes without you having to force it. At first, it feels unnatural. But once you experience the profound calm that comes from not reacting, you won't want to go back. You stop over-explaining. You stop needing to be understood by people who are still figuring out who they are. You let your peace speak for you. Because sometimes, the most powerful message is no message at all. In that silence, you reconnect with your real voice. The one that doesn't yell or chase approval. The one that just exists with a steady, unshakable power. If this journey into your own power is resonating, hit subscribe. You won't want to miss what comes next. But this mastery over your outer world is only possible when you finally conquer the battles within, and that war is where we're headed next. And still, silence doesn't mean the work is done. Because what still triggers you, still controls you. Let that truth land. Let it settle in the quiet of your soul. It's easy to hide pain behind a busy schedule or a polished smile. But certain words, a specific name, a particular memory, can still sting like it was yesterday. That sharp, sudden ache, that flash of heat, that is not your weakness. It is a signal, a divine alert from your deepest self, pointing to a place inside you that still needs your own care. You cannot fake a peace you haven't fought for. You cannot outrun a pain you haven't faced. What you don't face, you carry. And you, my friend, were never meant to carry this weight forever. Healing means having the courage to ask, why does this still hurt? Where did this wound truly come from? Maybe it was a betrayal that shattered your trust. An abandonment that made you feel invisible. A version of your past you were never given the space to process. The body remembers. The heart remembers. Real healing is messy. It is not a linear path. It is not about pretending the storm never happened. It is about learning to dance in the rain of your own tears, letting yourself feel it all without an ounce of shame. You don't heal by avoiding your triggers. You heal by understanding them. You sit with them in the dark and you ask them what they came to teach you. That is how you stop reacting from a place of old pain and start responding from a place of present moment wisdom. That is how you break the cycle. How you stop repeating the same painful story. How you finally stop blaming yourself for wounds that were never, ever your fault. And yes, it will hurt before it helps. This pain is part of the process. It is the ache of the bone resetting, so it can grow back stronger. True healing happens in the raw, unfiltered honesty you have with yourself in the mirror. It happens when you stop covering the wound with a bandage and finally, gently, start to clean it. It's when you stop whispering, "I'm fine," and finally have the courage to declare, "I'm tired. I'm tired of carrying this." Because triggers don't just disappear. They morph. They show up as unexplained anger, as defensiveness, as the urge to withdraw, as the relentless chase of perfection. But once you name what hurts, once you sit with it long enough to understand its origin, everything begins to shift. That is the moment your power returns. That is the moment you start living instead of just coping. Healing is not weakness. It is the ultimate strength. It is the most courageous, revolutionary, and loving thing you will ever do. Not just for you, but for everyone who is blessed to love you. Most people avoid it because they confuse silence with peace and avoidance with growth. But real peace, the unshakable kind, only comes from confronting the pain, not from running from it. This isn't about staying stuck in the past. It is about going back to the exact moment you lost a piece of yourself, and choosing to give that version of you the love, the voice, and the closure it was always denied. And sometimes, that closure will never come from the person who hurt you. They may never apologize. They may never even see the damage they caused. But that's okay, because you can still choose to heal anyway. Sometimes life will never give you the answers for why your heart was broken. But healing isn't about waiting for those answers. It is about choosing to stop bleeding on people who didn't cause the wound. It is choosing to love yourself enough to clean what's been hurting, to protect your peace fiercely, and to let go of what has already happened. Your triggers are not your enemies. They are sacred signals pointing to what still needs your gentle, compassionate care. Healing is you choosing to listen to those signals, not with blame or shame, but with honesty, with courage. It is the quiet, powerful declaration that says, I deserve to live free from this, and that single decision changes everything. You begin to heal the very second you stop letting your past dictate your present. Because every time you react from a triggered place, you hand your power back to a pain that has already had its turn. Healing isn't pretending nothing happened. It is deciding that what happened will no longer define you. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it broke something. But that pain is not your identity. That trigger is not your truth. You're never triggered. It means you've learned not to surrender to it. You stop giving your power back to the ghosts of your past. And as that profound shift happens, the things that used to shake you to your core no longer have the same grip. The people who once ruined your week now receive your silence. You stop chasing what doesn't grow you. You stop explaining your worth to those who are spiritually blind to it. That is what healing looks like. It's not that you don't feel. It's that you've learned how to feel without falling apart. You've created a sacred, safe space inside yourself, a sanctuary nothing from the outside can violate. So when life gets loud, you stay rooted. You observe more. You absorb less. That strength isn't loud, but it is real. It is built in the quiet, through reflection, through patience, through the inner work no one ever sees. That calm presence you carry, it comes from facing your pain, not avoiding it. From asking the hard questions in the dark. From learning to soothe your own wounds instead of pretending they aren't there. Because healing isn't about controlling the world around you. It's about mastering the world within you. And when you do that, everything starts to shift. Not because life gets easier, but because you become undeniably stronger. There is no deadline for healing. No one-size-fits-all timeline. You take your time. Some days you feel like a mountain. Other days, it all feels fresh and raw again. And that's okay. Healing is not a straight line. It is a spiral. You will revisit places, but from a higher perspective. But every time you pause instead of react, every time you reflect instead of explode, you are rewriting your story. You are etching a new destiny into your soul. Triggers lose their power when you stop fearing them and start understanding them. When you stop seeing them as weaknesses and start seeing them as opportunities to grow. That is the alchemy of healing. It doesn't erase the past, but it transforms how you carry it. You stop hiding your scars and start honoring the wisdom they gave you. And one day, you will realize the very thing that used to trigger you is the very thing that reminds you of how far you've come. Because now you see it clearly. Now you've outgrown it. Now you're walking in a peace you earned. And that kind of peace can never be shaken because it was forged in the fires of your own courage. Eventually, you realize this healing isn't just for you. It is your legacy. It is for the people you love, too. When you heal, you stop bleeding on those who never hurt you. You stop projecting old pain onto new people. You stop repeating patterns that once felt like life sentences. That is what love looks like. Healing so you can show up whole. So you can raise children with peace, not pain. So you can lead without your wounds steering the ship. So you can love without the shadow of fear. It all begins in the quiet. Facing the mirror. Asking the hard questions. Doing the work no one claps for. Crying through it. Writing through it. Praying through it. And most of all, believing, in the core of your being, that you are worthy of more than just surviving. You deserve a joy that isn't fragile. You are allowed to feel safe, to trust again, to laugh so freely it echoes in your soul. Healing what triggers you is one of the greatest acts of self-respect you will ever undertake. It is how you show yourself that your story doesn't end in pain. It ends in power. Every step you take toward healing makes you lighter, wiser, more unstoppable. Healed people move with purpose. They love with intention. They live with a clarity that cuts through the noise. And so will you. Most people spend their entire lives explaining, defending, proving. But real power doesn't come from convincing others of your worth. It comes from building a life so authentic, so aligned, so powerful, that it speaks for you. You don't need to argue for your value when your actions are a living testament to it. You don't need to demand respect when your very presence commands it. Creating a life that speaks for you is about quiet, relentless consistency. It's waking up early to chase a goal only you can see. It's choosing discipline when distraction is begging for your attention. It's walking away from anything that disturbs your sacred peace. That is what speaks. That kind of energy is louder than any social media post, any speech, any reaction. You stop chasing validation because your life, your very being, becomes the proof. People can doubt your words, but they cannot argue with your growth. They cannot question your peace, your progress, your powerful presence. And that is the goal. Not to be the loudest voice in the room, but to be so grounded that your silence carries more weight than someone else's noise. Let your growth be your only response. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to correct the lies. You don't have to lower yourself to their level. Just keep showing up. Keep building. Keep rising. The ones who doubted you will see it. The ones who left will realize you never needed them to thrive. And this isn't about revenge. This is about alignment. When you are in alignment with your truth, you don't need to explain. The life you live says everything. Every healed wound, every boundary kept, every decision made from a place of clarity, it all becomes the unshakable foundation of your legacy. And eventually, that quiet truth becomes louder than any doubt, any rumor, any judgment. Peace cannot be faked. Growth cannot be pretended. You either live it or you don't. And when you do, people feel it. Especially when you don't say a single word. So stop. Stop spending your precious energy trying to be understood by those who aren't ready to understand. Use that energy to become someone so grounded, so rooted in their truth, that no opinion, no judgment can shake you. Because when your life speaks for you, silence becomes your greatest strength. Sometimes the best answer is no reaction at all. Just growth, just peace, just quiet, relentless elevation. Let your results speak in the rooms where you were once underestimated. Let your peace shine in the places where chaos used to live. Let your progress tell the story no one believed at first. This doesn't come from bitterness. It comes from discipline, from choosing to outgrow rather than out, from deciding you'd rather build than beg, from knowing, in your soul, that you'd rather shine quietly than scream for attention. Building a life that speaks for you means taking the road less traveled. The one that doesn't always get the applause, but always leads to purpose. It means saying no to quick, empty validation and saying a full-bodied why yes to real, soul-deep fulfillment. It means choosing to bet on yourself, where no one else can see the vision yet. Because the same people who once ignored your journey will one day look at you and ask, "How did you do it?" And they will see, it wasn't just what you did. It was who you became. The version of you that chose growth over gossip, peace over pride, purpose over performance. That version is undeniable. There is a quiet power in not needing to explain yourself. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that your energy is sacred. Not everyone deserves access to your truth. You stop oversharing. You stop trying to convince people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you focus inward. You get crystal clear about what you want, what you need, and what you will no longer accept. And from that clarity, you move. You build. You grow, quietly, intentionally, powerfully. And one day, they notice. Not because you told them, but because the shift in you is simply impossible to ignore. You are no longer moved by old triggers. You are no longer shaken by small minds. You're grounded. You're focused. You're clear. And that clarity, that peace, that presence, that is what makes your life speak. You become the proof, not the promise. The evidence, not the explanation. And that kind of energy speaks in every space you enter. Boardrooms, relationships, friendships. It speaks without you needing to say a single word. When your life is grounded in truth and built with discipline, you don't need anyone to validate you. Your life becomes the loudest, clearest voice in the room. People will talk. They always do. They'll assume. They'll criticize. They'll speculate. But when you're focused on building a life that reflects who you truly are, none of it sticks. It bounces right off your piece because you're too busy growing to be bothered. You're too locked into your vision to be distracted by the noise. You've come too far to explain yourself to people who don't even understand themselves. That is when your silence becomes sacred. Not because you're passive, but because you are profoundly intentional. You've learned attention, not because you raised your voice, but because you built something undeniable. You created your own lane. You became your own validation. Now, your presence speaks what your words never had to. That is power. That is growth. That is what happens when you stop explaining and start evolving. You want to know what real strength looks like. It's not in how loud you are. It's in your movement. It's when your daily habits align with your deepest dreams. When your lifestyle becomes a living reflection of your core values. When you show up every single day with integrity, with discipline, with grace. That is what speaks. Not the post, not the performance, but the way you live your life. And the best part, you don't need anyone's permission to start. You don't need anyone's approval to stay committed. You just need consistency, Because the world might not notice right away. It might take time for people to catch up to the new you. But that's fine, because you're not doing it for the applause. You're doing it for your peace, for your purpose, for your alignment. And the moment your actions start matching the truth of your soul, everything begins to shift. Your relationships change. Your energy transforms. Your decisions become clearer. And the quiet, unshakable confidence you start to carry, that is what sets you apart. That is what people notice, not because you demanded it, but because the energy you emit is simply undeniable. When your life speaks truth, when your growth is steady, when your peace becomes non-negotiable, people listen. Even the ones who try to tune you out. Every healed version of you, every habit you've shifted, every boundary you've enforced, every decision you've made from a place of truth, all of it becomes part of the story your life tells. And that story is your legacy. That's what people will remember. Not what you said, but how you lived. Not the noise you made, but the impact you left. You become living proof that healing is real, that rising is possible, that you don't have to stay in the same place life left you broken. And that message is louder than any microphone, because you've lived it. You've walked through the fire. You've earned every bit of your peace. So stop. Stop wasting your time trying to be understood by those who aren't ready to understand. Keep building. Keep becoming. Let your life speak in rooms you've never even stepped into yet. Let your consistency speak when your voice is tired. Let your transformation speak where your name was once doubted. And in time, you'll see. You'll see that your greatest strength was never in how loudly you could shout. It was in how deeply you dared to live. That is the real influence. That is the real legacy. A life that speaks not just for you, but for everyone watching you. Proving, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that healing and evolving in silence isn't just possible, it is unstoppable. There comes a point when you realize peace is more valuable than popularity, and your energy is more precious than attention. You start to understand that your environment shapes your spirit. The people you keep close either fuel your soul, or slowly, quietly, drain it. Surrounding yourself with those who don't exhaust you becomes one of the deepest forms of self-respect. It's not about cutting people off out of coldness. It's about choosing to protect your energy. Because when you're always the one giving, fixing, explaining, holding space, you eventually become empty. You begin to run on emotional fumes, worn down by being everything for everyone, while receiving so little in return. The truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Some people carry chaos like baggage, and they leave it everywhere they go. If you're not careful, you'll start carrying it, too, thinking it's your responsibility. But it's not. You don't have to hold what was never meant for you. You don't have to save everyone. Sometimes the kindest, most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is to step back and let them carry their own weight. Protect your peace like it's the last ember of fire in a frozen world. Because once it's gone, it is a long, cold journey to get it back. And when you finally, truly experience the depth of true peace, you will never again waste it on what doesn't honor it. When you surround yourself with people who uplift you, who support your growth, who respect your energy, something inside you shifts. You laugh without forcing it. You speak without filtering yourself. You rest without a single ounce of guilt. It's not that life becomes easy. It's that the pressure to perform, to fix, to pretend, it suddenly fades. You feel lighter. You feel more yourself. That is the power of being around people who pour into you, rather than drain you. These are the ones who don't need you to shrink so they can shine. They don't see your healing as competition. They celebrate your wins as if they were their own, and they stand beside you through your lows without ever keeping score. They don't expect you to suffer to make them feel better. They just love you for who you are. And that is what you deserve. Connections that are mutual, safe, rooted in genuine respect. You deserve to receive the same level of care, love, and effort that you so freely give. Anything less is not selfish to walk away from. It is survival. You are never meant to struggle endlessly just to feel seen. You are meant to thrive in spaces where your light is not only welcomed, but protected. The right people will never drain you. They will help you rise. But to experience that, you have to be intentional with who you let close. Not everyone who smiles at you has good intentions. Some come near just to feed off your energy, to soak in your light because they've lost their own. That kind of presence is quiet, but it is dangerous. After every interaction with them, you feel heavier. They downplay your progress. They dismiss your dreams. They twist your kindness into a weakness. You find yourself walking on eggshells, over-explaining, softening your truth just to avoid conflict. That is not friendship. That is emotional labor disguised as loyalty. Real ones, the kind who refill your spirit, they don't need you to dim down. They welcome your boundaries without taking offense. They don't guilt-trip you for choosing peace over people-pleasing. They bring joy, not noise. They listen not just to respond, but to understand. They give without expecting a return. And being around them feels like breathing clean mountain air after being trapped in a smoke-filled city. That's how you know. It doesn't drain you. It fuels you. So, if someone consistently leaves you feeling small, and hurt, or depleted, it is time to guard your space. You can love people from a distance and still protect your peace. You are allowed to outgrow those who once felt like home. Sometimes the people who started the journey with you aren't meant to finish it. Don't ignore the signs. Your energy is your responsibility. You are not required to stay in draining connections just because of a shared history. Just because someone's been around for a long time doesn't mean they've earned forever. Time spent is not proof of love given. You have to ask yourself the hard question: are they feeding my soul, or are they feeding off it? And if it's the latter, it's okay to walk away. That's not cold. That's healing. Because when you remove what drains you, you make sacred space for what lifts you. You stop watering dead plants, and you start giving your garden a real chance to bloom. Energy never lies. Even if you can't explain it logically, you can feel it. You feel it in the weight that lingers after a conversation, the unease that shows up after a visit, the emotional exhaustion from trying to keep a connection together that was never meant to hold. That's not your imagination. It's your intuition. Listen to it, trust it. You don't need to justify why someone's presence leaves you empty. Knowing it, deep in your spirit, is enough. Honoring that knowing is strength, and that doesn't make you heartless. It makes you self-aware. You've learned a sacred truth. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. You've learned that your joy, your peace, your energy, they're holy. And once you start choosing yourself over constantly pleasing others, everything begins to change. You say no without guilt. You rest without needing permission. You speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. And slowly, the people around you shift. The ones who drained you begin to fall away, or rise to meet the new frequency you're holding. The ones who see your true value, they come closer. It's a process, but it is worth it. Because your peace, your mental health, your emotional safety, that is the foundation of everything you're building. Protect it without apology. Not everyone is meant to grow with you. Some people are attached to the version of you that kept quiet, that gave too much, that accepted too little. When you start setting boundaries, they don't recognize you anymore. And that's okay. Growth isn't just uncomfortable for you. It's uncomfortable for everyone around you. If your healing offends them, that is their mirror to face, not your mess to clean up. Keep choosing peace. Keep protecting your space. Keep becoming who you were always meant to be. Don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable with staying the same. Don't dim your light to protect someone else's insecurity. The people who truly love you will never ask you to make yourself small. They won't compete with your growth or feel threatened by your healing. They'll honor your space without invading it. They'll respect your journey without resenting it. Surround yourself with people who speak life into you, who remind you of your strength, who hold you accountable with love, who see your evolution and celebrate it. Those are your people. They don't drain you, they inspire you. Being around them feels like breathing again, like exhaling after you've been holding your breath for a lifetime. That is the kind of energy your soul deserves. And if you haven't found it yet, become it. When you stand fully in your truth, the right people will recognize you by the light you no longer hide. Your energy is sacred. So is your peace. Life is already heavy. You're already carrying your own battles. You're healing wounds you never asked for. You're climbing mountains only you can understand. The last thing you need is to carry people who refuse to carry themselves. You weren't born to be a dumping ground for other people's unhealed pain. You weren't made to endlessly fix what others refuse to face. You are allowed to protect your light. You are allowed to be selective. You are allowed to walk away from any relationship that requires you to abandon yourself. That isn't selfish. It is wisdom. You only get one life, and it should be surrounded by those who pour back into you, who speak your name with love, not judgment, who see your presence as a gift, not a burden. People who remind you you're not too much, not too sensitive, not too broken. That kind of energy heals. And when your life is rooted in those kinds of connections, you thrive. You grow without fear. You rest without guilt. You speak without shrinking. You begin to live, not just survive, with a soul-deep peace. And that is exactly what you were created for. Protect your circle. Protect your energy like it is the foundation of everything, because it is. When you begin to train yourself to become unbothered, you unlock a higher version of yourself. You stop living in reaction mode. You stop giving your power away to every insult, every distraction, every uninvited opinion. You learn that silence isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It shields you. It grounds you. It tells the world you've outgrown the need to prove yourself to anyone. Because when you've truly healed, you don't chase closure. You don't chase validation. You don't chase revenge. You simply rise. You evolve. You build. Healing your triggers is one of the bravest, most powerful things you will ever do. It's not easy, but it is freedom. True peace doesn't mean pretending nothing hurts. It means facing what does hurt, so it no longer controls you. It means breaking cycles that have held your family for generations. It means forgiving yourself for mistakes you made while you were surviving. It means releasing what you've outgrown with love. And from that, you build a life that needs no defense. You stop over-explaining. You stop begging to be seen. You let your growth speak for you through your presence, your discipline, your alignment, your peace. Your life becomes your loudest testimony. And because it's built on truth, it becomes a magnet for everything that is meant for you. You get intentional about your circle. You choose people who pour into your soul, who respect your time, your space, your boundaries. You stop giving access to everyone, because now you understand a fundamental law of energy. Not everyone is meant to come with you. You're not cold for choosing peace. You're not heartless for setting limits. You're wise, because you know what it costs to be drained. You remember what it felt like to carry everyone, but yourself. So now, you choose differently. You choose joy. You choose clarity. You choose alignment. You weren't created to be constantly overwhelmed, emotionally exhausted, or entangled in chaos. You were made to rise, to breathe deeply, to live intentionally. Your silence, your healing, your boundaries. These aren't signs of weakness. They are evidence of your strength. They are reminders that you no longer entertain anything that steals your peace. This journey isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally wise. It's about knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You are not here to convince. You are not here to chase. You are not here to shrink. You are here to live boldly, peacefully, and unapologetically. Stand tall in your truth. Heal for real. Speak up with purpose. Protect your peace without apology. And never, ever, let someone else's chaos pull you away from the calm you fought so hard to create. You are powerful beyond words when you choose stillness over reaction, presence over performance, and purpose over validation. That is your legacy. That is your light. Keep rising. Stay grounded. If this message rebuilt you from the inside, share it with one person who needs to hear it today. If this was your wake-up call, leave a "I'm rising" in the comments below. Let the world know you're choosing your peace. And if you're ready to live this truth every day, subscribe. This is just the beginning of your new story. This wasn't just a video. It was the awakening your soul was waiting for.